Well, hello again, guys. As you can see, we are well underway with our 40 Chevy rolling chassis here. One of the unanswered questions that I have is what do I need for this steering gear and what condition it is in? Do I just need gaskets, which is pretty obvious? The grease ball condition of this thing, pretty obvious I do. It seems to roll and spin very smoothly. Do I need anything beyond that? What condition is the sector gear in? What condition is the worm gear in? We need to tear it apart and figure that out. So let's get her mounted up in the vise and start scraping the crud. Alright. So I've been working on steering knuckles here. I've got the... Well, don't you turn... a little old Wilton vise, but it's not too... Maybe you're not going to work for me. We'll just do the best we can, huh? I've got the boot tray. We can scrape the junk in. Like so. We just open this up and at least contain it somewhat. Ooh. Oh, yeah. The crud of the ages. Wow. I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not. I don't know the order of these things. If anyone should, I should, right? I was pleasantly surprised about the condition of the kingpins and the steering knuckles, the bushings and that and everything. And that's actually still in the works. I've got them soaking in gas. So I'm hoping that this thing might be kind of similar. We'll see. Maybe we had a very conscientious guy maintaining this pickup, despite the fact that it looked like it knocked over several dozen cows on a daily basis. So, okay. Now I believe this thing is the kind of the same gearbox, if I remember right, from 37 to 41. I know I'm shaking you. I'm sorry about that, but I can find kits for them, as I say. My usual source, Chevs of the 40s, for a lot of this stuff, they seem to be extremely proud of their kit for whatever reason. But I found some on some other sources and they're well under $100. So, you know, is it really worth even questioning whether it's any good or not? Should you just buy that? Well, I don't know. If a guy can just make a couple gaskets and be done with it, we'll find out. But I've gotten it well enough to where I can get to the fasteners anyway. It's just begging for a good soak in some 87 octane. So that's what we're going to give it after I tear it down. One thing to note, I think I'll go write that down, is the horn wire is towards the frame. So that would be beneficial to remember. Gotta go scour the shop again. Gather weapons and ammo. Okay, I think my steering wheel is loose. I'm sure it was. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Oh. There you are, old buddy. One of my favorite parts of this thing so far has got to be these comically large machine screws. That is awesome. Giving my screwdriver an inferiority complex or something. That was way too difficult to say. Now this one looks like it has a hole in it. 1/2 inch or 9/16. 9/16. Now, is that just a button? I don't know. Yep. Whew. She's a little stinky. Took a quick peek in the book. I didn't want to mess anything up. Says I should be able to remove the sector shaft. Yeah. Okay. Comes the bushing and a shim. Couple bushings. We'll see more when we get that cleaned up. That's nice and tight. Anything else in there? I don't think so. There's our seal. Got messed up at some point or another. I didn't do it. Now that the sector's out, I think everything else will probably, yeah, there we go. There's our race, there's our bearing. Should have another bearing somewhere, either here or here. I think it's in the case. With this kind of grease, it's doubtful we have moisture problems. It'll take cleaning all of this up just to be very, very sure. But my initial impression is that bearing looks great. This race on this end looks great. I see no rusting or pitting or breakage in the gear. So, as long as I can make some, most likely, the way things look, we can look at this race too. Well, of course, reserve my final verdict for when it's all clean, but if I can find a seal, which there must be some size out there because they sell it in the kit, if I can find that and make a couple paper gaskets, I really think we are going to have a good gear here. One thing I want to do here is I want to get this horn bushing, the shaft bushing. It also is the horn contact. I want to get that out of there just using an old 1/2 inch pipe here. I don't know why we're getting stuck. Get around. Got a bit of a bend to this pipe, so that's probably part of the problem. Yeah. Take two. Took a hammer and straightened it out a bunch. Yeah, there we go. Well, that didn't have much more to go. Now, question is this thing worn out, or should we consider reusing it? Certainly tight on the top end. Let's put it the way it goes. Oh man, that thing's tight. I don't know. I would suspect it's fine. Well, if this thing is like the earlier cars, basically your button has you have a two-prong deal, kind of like a croquet gate thing, you know, that is, okay, that's a terrible comparison. A garden staple, there we go. You know, those wire things that go through the little holes, and that provides your ground through the steering shaft. When the two prongs contact our metal here, I had to really clean this thing up on the bench, the wire wheel, you know. But I do not get any continuity through the wire to this thing, so either we have a break in this 1940 wire, which I don't suppose would be too surprising, or the contact on this end internally is shot. If that's the case, we're probably talking a brand new one. In fact, we can just find out right now, because obviously this would mostly have to be replaced anyway. Put a new piece of wire in there. Looks like pretty good stuff up here. So let's get our clamp. Probably don't need it at this point. Nope, still nothing. Huh. Well, that answers that. I guess I could fiddle around with trying to peel this apart, but I doubt the survival rate will be very high. So we'll look at getting a different one. Well, I spent a good amount of time scraping and soaking and scrubbing this thing. Man, it was like 80-year-old gum, dried out gum on this, and it's still not 100% perfect, but I think I'm going to move on. One thing I do need to do yet is finish making gaskets, so I'm going to do that real quick. Another thing, you can see how chewed up this is. I was like, wow, what in the world is going on with that? And I can see on our shaft, I could a little easier before I cleaned it up, but all in here it's just scored up. Now this is, you know, much harder steel, so it took it and didn't really care, but apparently something non-ferrous, because I was digging chunks out of here and flushing them out. Could have been a rock, could have been a piece of brass, I don't know. Either something fell down into the steering mast from the steering wheel end of the tube and got stuck here, or it made its way in through the hole, most likely that the horn wire goes into, and then it just rode in here and chewed this up, and eventually it worked its way in between the two. Luckily, I don't think, you know, the condition of the bearings and the races and everything, I don't think anything ever really made it into our case. But anyway, I have a piece of pipe in my vise here, and I'm going to take and straighten that out, make the gaskets, and then we will start rebuilding this. It is definitely on a guy's wish list to get a heated wash cabinet. That's kind of bucket list dreams right now, you know. A heated wash cabinet, and what a guy would really like is a parts oven as well, like a machine shop would use. Just bake that grease within an inch of its life, and then it's a lot easier to deal with. But that's not for today. Okay, gaskets are made. One thing I want to point out is in here they have what they call an eccentric sleeve, and the upper bearing race is installed in it. It's just kind of a cage looking thing. These notches are the top end of it. This right here. I did not take that out. It's really not necessary for what we are doing anyway, since our bearings and races are in a good condition here. I'm going to be using corn head grease again. I don't know. I've used it on 2 gears now. This one tube, I don't know if I'll have enough to fill this thing. Might just have to run to town. I'm going to get the upper bearing in place. The inner race there, and now we're going to put this up in here. Just like so. Our other bearing and our other race. What are we? We got Timken 6-A. Huh, made in USA. That was probably obvious. Okay. Thrust washer. Just like that. Okay, so this is our end play adjusting screw, and they want you to back that off a couple turns. You see we have 4 lugs here and 4 lugs in that eccentric sleeve. And I know, because I took pictures, that my adjuster is in this corner, so that'll get the hex bolt. The others have the slotted machine screws. So I'll get my sticky Permatex gasket, and I've got to line these lugs up. So this is a cork seal. I do not have a new one. It's kind of cone shaped, but that may be because of the other piece that goes up against it. So I think if a guy needed to, he could make his own. Now I'm going to throw this in here temporarily, just to make sure that's lined up. This one seems to be intact. And considering the fact that I'm using grease, not oil, for now anyway, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. Hey now. Oh, it's got to be about break time. I'm getting hungry here. Alright, pull that back out. Now I'm supposed to remove end play. Hard to tell with a vise like this. Something like that. Greased up the cork seal. You know, we want to keep it fresh. Put our adjuster on there and our bolt in our washer. And I probably don't have my sockets here. They're in the other part of the shop. We'll just use this one. Putting that down for now. And nope. Just this. Alright, now we're going to turn it so we can put our sector shaft in. Which is right here. I didn't bother taking the bushings off. We've got a thrust washer. You can see how that's oriented. It's concave on the sector gear side. And we have our, I think they just call them floating bushings. Get some grease. Alright, then we'll grease up this end as well. Just drop her in. Should meet up with that just fine. Now for our side cover, get our sticky gasket. Put a little more grease in that bushing. Okay. Now, there is a vented bolt, just a regular bolt they drilled at the factory. That's Saginaw drilled, you know, and that should be the top bolt. So there, I believe. And then our other 3 machine screws. Probably 9/16, which I don't have. I'll have to go get it. Oh, we can do it this way. This vent was plugged, so I'm sure that greatly contributed to the leakage. You know what? I really should have filled this thing. Yeah, I'm going to take it back off and fill it. Green goop goes in. And there is room for a lot of it. Wow. Just like you might go to the neighbors to borrow sugar, I could have easily gone to any number of neighbors. In the figurative sense. I mean, neighbors here aren't like neighbors probably where you live, you know. Per square mile is what I'm saying. And any one of them would have had corn header grease. But a guy likes to stand on his own 2 feet, so I ran to John Deere dealership up the road and just got it, you know. Okay, I drove the truck. I didn't run. No, I drove the pickup. Excuse me. The pick 'em up truck. Anyway, I am going to get this as full as I can. Just by this method, I actually did run out. And then I'm going to put the cover back on. Alright, I have a Timken 313842, I think. Yeah, 313842. Got grease on the outside and a very thin coat of Permatex gasket maker on the outside, because it was uncovered, unfrosted. Having a string of very unusual, pleasant weather in the afternoons at this time. I don't have a socket deep enough. Come on now. And I want to get this part done, and I'm going to go out to the other half of the shop there and do something out there on the Nova project, since it's out there on the lift and it's nice out there today. Boy. Okay, had kind of a difficult time of it. It might be worth trying to put the seal in first before you put the sector shaft in. These are beveled, the splines, so maybe you could get it past the lip of the seal without tearing anything up. There's not too much of a ridge at the base of the splines going onto the smooth shaft portion, so that might be doable and a little easier. I'm not 100% sure. This thing is just, the seal is just so thin, the sidewalls, that it just wants to catch and bunch up, get deformed on the edge. So watch out for that. You may want to buy a couple, you know, whatever. Okay, it's adjustment time. Now this one may, it may be best to check this again. We'll do a preliminary adjustment, but you know, when you kind of have it back together, steering wheel's on it, so on and so forth, it may be best to recheck it, but we're going to do our best. I have our lock nut, our large lock nut here, loose, and they want this one to go all the way to one side. I'm going to loosen this. And they want you to tighten this until a slight load is felt on the steering wheel. So I'm just going to feel for any obvious change on the shaft here. Definitely there. I'm going to back it off. I'm going to try that again, actually. I have a lot less torque with my hand than I would with the steering wheel. I guess I could even put the steering wheel, you know, why? Okay. We're getting smart now. Got the steering wheel on there, and I don't have a steering gear adjustment for dummies book here. Definitely need it, huh? I'm going to leave it there, I think. Okay, now for the rest of that, you would put a spring scale on the steering wheel, and they want like 1 1/8 pound, which is very light, it seems to me. But so much for that. All right, now we're going to deal with our sector shaft end play. If I back this off, you can see I have quite a bit of movement there. So we're just going to go in until that's gone. I know my vise is moving quite a bit, so it might be annoying for you. I'm going to say right there. And that's really all they want you to do. Tighten this down. And then basically we just put it through its paces here and make sure there's no binding. Which that feels great. Okay. A little past center. Uno. Dos. Tres. Three and that much. Okay, that should be about center, and when we are at center, we want all backlash removed. So now I need to loosen that. Oh yeah, all my wrenches are still out there. Here's a bent wrench. I don't know if you can even see that. Is that not half? Nope, that's not half. Loosen this, and you see they have an arrow stamped in there. We're going to move it. They say, I believe, no more than a 1/16 of an inch at a time. Which I don't know how you judge that accurately, but can't really tell what's going on. It's certainly still there. Make sure I'm feeling slop and not the loose pitman arm here. Okay, it's almost gone. Ooh, that's close. I'm going to double check my center on my steering wheel because I've moved it a bunch. Make sure it's at center. And we'll double check that. Okay, I think I've got it. In fact, I'm going to tighten this down. I was off of center there for a little bit, so it got pretty tight when we got to the center. But they say you want 0 backlash at center, which I have. And I'm just going to double check. Should have 1, 2. Okay, about 2. We should have some backlash in it, which we certainly do. 1, 2. Well, let's go back. Should be gone. It is. 1, 2. Okay. Okay, so after all that, they say they want you to check it with the scale again. All told, you should have like 1 3/4 to 2.5 pounds on the steering wheel. I don't have a scale here. I mean, it feels good to me. I can certainly bring one and check it. I know all of our adjustments are in spec, so I don't feel too bad about it, but actually I feel pretty good about it, I should say. Anyway, as the French say, retreat! Oh no, C'est la guerre? No, I don't know what the French say. I've been cleaning up the mounting hardware for our steering gear, and that's just about the best example that I've seen in a coon's age of original factory, what I would refer to as black oxide, the bluing, the original treatment of hardware from the factory. It's really cool. I see nothing wrong with running them just like they are. They aren't rusty in any way. They were so coated with steering gear lubricant, kind of encased and entombed in it. Just for reference and posterity. Well, there we go. We got her all masked off for paint, and we're going to be doing that along with a whole lot of other chassis stuff yet to come for this build, so you will be have to just look for that. But we have got through our objective this time and went through it. This simple, sturdy, reliable, kind of bulletproof, old-fashioned gearbox is good for who knows how many more miles. Guys, I want to apologize for my comment about the French thing. You know, it was out of ignorance. What I should have said was retreat instead of retreat, you know. I apologize. Okay. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you know I'm kidding. God bless you. We'll see you on the next one. Retweet. I don't know how do they talk. It's weird.